We don't have time to read all of the books, or to bake all of the cakes, or to wear all of the hats, or all of the shoes. We don't have time to play with all of the toys, or archive all of the photos, to use up all of the hair and skin products, and definitely not enough time to use up all of the cleaning supplies that we've acquired. For all of the craft supplies, we don't have time to try all of the recipes, or even to use up the food that we already have. And we don't have enough time to wear all of the clothes that we have, or enough time to write all of the greeting cards and thank you notes. Ooh, we definitely don't have enough time to put out all the fall and Christmas decorations that we have. And I say all that to let you know that you're not crazy. I know we don't like to use that word now. There's nothing wrong with you if the stuff in your house feels off the hook, if it feels out of control, if you're like, why can't I manage it all? What is wrong with me? The problem is not you, it is that we are trying to manage so much extra stuff, so much more stuff than we ever use on a daily basis or that we'll ever use in the future. And so today, I just want to tell you, you are trying to manage way too much stuff. And I know the reason we keep it is because we hope to use it someday. What if I need it in the future? And what an idiot I will be if I get rid of it now and then I could use it in the future. So today, let's talk about how I can almost guarantee you 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt why you could declutter some of this stuff that you've been hanging onto and never miss it. There's actually a very predictable formula that we can use. So I want to talk about why don't we have time for this? Why do we keep this all? And how can we simplify and declutter it extremely safely? So number one, why don't we have enough time for it all? I read this statistic. It said, how much extra time do parents have in a day? And do you know how many minutes that the average mom has in a day? How many extra minutes? 17 minutes. 17 minutes a day. 17. And what's wild, I mean, that's for parents, right? I know many of our friends, the kids are out of the house or you don't have kids. I don't think you have much more time than that either. I think most of us, no matter what season of life we're in, we don't have as much time as we think that we have. We think we have extra time and we don't. Like, we don't actually have extra time. So then, if I think I have the time but I don't, why am I keeping all of this stuff? I think there's three main reasons. One, because I think that something is going to change in the future. I might not have time right now when the kids get a little bit older, when they move out, when I retire, when I'm not caring for this loved one anymore, when I finish school, when I get a different job. We all think there will be a point. Again, that's not illogical. That makes sense, right? So one, we think there will be time in the future. Two, we keep stuff because that's what other people do. That's just what we do. That's what we're taught to do. We buy bins, we store the stuff, we keep it in storage, we try to keep it organized and remember it's there and labeled and archived. And so we keep it because we think that is what we're supposed to do. And then number three, why do we keep it if we don't have time? Because we don't want to be wasteful. If I bought something and I donate it, that is being wasteful. And many of us were brought up to believe that no matter what, you don't waste anything. Again, it's another logical argument. I have space in my basement. I can keep it to see if I'm going to use it in the future. So what I want to tell you today is that none of this is illogical. It all makes sense why we hang on to stuff that we're not currently using here today. But the problem is, I think all of that stuff is causing stress, it's causing anxiety, it's causing us to think there's something wrong with me, that I can't keep it all organized, and it's causing me to not enjoy my house or my time with my family because I am spending all of my time trying to organize and archive it so that someday when the time comes, when I have extra time, I can use this stuff. So it's important to realize that there is a cost to it. This is actually costing us dearly to continue to try and keep all this stuff and manage it so that I don't have to risk getting rid of something that I might use in the future. So we get kind of like caught in this, right? Like, okay, so what am I supposed to do, right? I don't want to be foolish, but yet you're right. I can't manage all of this stuff. And so the formula that we use is we use the past as a predictor of the future. Using past facts is much more reliable than these hypothetical hopes. You know, when I had young kids, I didn't want to hear that I wouldn't have more time in the future. I wanted to think about days where I could sit by the pool reading a book while they splashed in the water because now they're old enough to watch themselves. I wanted to think about having more time to garden and to bake and to try the different recipes. Often for many of us, as we move from season to season to season, we want to hope that there is going to be more time. There's going to be more leisure time, more time to pursue these things and to do the things that we have always wanted to do. I mean, that's the point of retirement, right? Is to get to a point where we have the time to do the things. However, if we look at the past patterns, they don't suggest that we're going to have more time in the future. So step number one to knowing very logically what we will use in the future is how much time do you have to spend on it now? My mom loves rubber stamping, and even now she has a little more time because they're closer to retirement age, but she still probably only does it a couple hours a week, a few hours a week. And so she can look at that and say, okay, if this is how much time I spend on it each week, how many hours would it actually take me to go through all of the paper and the ink pads and the embellishments and everything that I've collected? If you like to knit or crochet, how many hours worth of yarn do we have for the quilters? How many hours worth of material for any other kind of crafters? How many hours worth of craft supplies do you have for your kids? How many hours worth of toys do you have for your kids? And to look at it and say, okay, how many hours a week? And then how long would it actually take me to read all of the books that I have? Many hours. And that's assuming that I don't add any more to the collections in the meantime. And so we look at how much time do we currently have. Step number two is to look at those around us. So here's what I'm consistently hearing from our friends who are empty nesters, or the kids are already out of the house, or you're in retirement age. You don't have the time either. You thought retirement would look one way, but something else comes in that takes our time. You're taking care of grandkids, you're taking care of loved ones that have health challenges. Something else has come up. Very rarely from you all do I hear, wow, I have all the time to work on my hobbies that I ever thought I would. Or you have your own health challenges that take away from your energy. And it sucks, right? Like, I'm so sorry about that for you. For any of us that are saying like, it doesn't look like what I thought it was gonna. I got here and it's nothing like what I thought, and I still have all of this stuff sitting in storage. That sucks. But let's look around again at our own schedule and those around us, and is it actually logical to assume that we are gonna have a lot more time to spend with this stuff in the future? And then number three, we could very logically plan out the next year. So again, my mom does rubber stamping, and we were talking about this. She knows what holidays, what occasions that she creates cards for every year in and year out. And I said, Mom, what if we just planned out the next year and then you kept the supplies that worked for those cards that you know for Christmas or Thanksgiving that you're gonna use? And then if we did that, do you think it would feel safer or more predictable to be able to donate the rest of it? And she was like, wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. I know this wars with us with internally our desire to be responsible and to not be wasteful. So many of us, we've been so hard on ourselves because we look at all of this stuff we've acquired and we're like, why did I do that? Look at all of that money. Joshua Becker will say, look at that stuff. That's where your money used to be, right? We know that. And we do. We feel this desire to be responsible with our resources and the things that we have. But we fail to take into account the toll that this is taking on us. And so today, what I want to tell you most of all is that we could look at this two different ways. We could get really down on ourselves and we could feel guilty and full of shame for the money we spent. My mom talks about going to stamping parties, and I kind of got influenced by the other gals, what they were buying, what the demonstrator was selling, like, why did I buy that stuff, right? And so we could be really hard on ourselves and say, why do I still have all the cookbooks? Why did I think I was gonna make scrapbooks? Why did I think I was gonna make a quilt for each child? Why do we have all these toys? Why do I have all of these books? We could get really down on ourselves and say, what was wrong with me that I acquired all this stuff? Or we could realize that, I had really good intentions when I acquired that stuff. I sincerely thought that when the kids were a little bit older, I was gonna have more time to craft and to sew and to do those things. I sincerely thought that. I'm realizing now, I just had my birthday, I turned 40. I'm like, I'm so wise now, right? At my age, and I'm realizing, I'm like, oh, I never have more time in the next season. Never, ever. When the kids are potty trained and then they can get in the car by themselves and then this and this and this. And so I can tell myself, you know what? I had good intentions when I acquired this stuff. There was a specific reason I got it and I thought I would use it, but I'm recognizing I don't have the time for it and there is a cost to managing it. So the nicest, kindest thing that I could do for myself right now is to stop trying to manage it all and organize it all, and I could pass it on and share it with someone who could make use of it. So my mom has so generously, she has shared so much of her stuff with an adult center where adults with different handicaps or special needs, they get to come there during the day. And so how cool that she could use that stuff to bless someone else. It's no longer inventory that she has to manage, and it's not deteriorating in the meantime, because that is also what's so horrible, right? When we acquire this stuff, and I remember my sewing bin got wet in our basement. I ended up just throwing away so much material because I'm like, I'm not gonna wash it and iron it and all of that, right? And so I ended up throwing away all this material, and you just think like, that was so wasteful. Like, why did I do that, right? And so we can very graciously let ourselves off the hook and say, you know what? I didn't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know that I wouldn't have the time for this. And it's totally okay. It is so okay, because if we will do that, if we will move this stuff out of our house, you are going to find a home that you love, that is so easy to manage, that you enjoy having people over. So just this past weekend, well, the past couple weeks in our private mentorship group, we've been doing like a fall home reset. And I just even challenged myself to go even further in the kitchen. Like, I went way further than I ever have. Like, if we're not using it right now, it either got donated or it went down into my extra kitchen bins in the basement. Every single thing in our kitchen right now, we are using right now. And so we celebrated our birthday over the weekend, which was so much fun. And thank you all for all of the wishes. Like, you are so kind and encouraging. You are like the wind in my sail, right? So thank you for that. And so we had a little birthday party at Diana's house, and Tom's sisters and their family came down, which was so much fun, and we were so grateful for. And then Sunday morning, we didn't quite know what the plan was, so they ended up coming back to our house and have breakfast. Well, I had been baking before we left for the party and getting food ready and all that, and so we left the house in kind of a mess. And so Sunday morning, Tom and I decided we're gonna let the kids sleep in, and we're just gonna get the house pulled back together. And it came back together so quickly, and it was so fun, because what he said was, it looked like a wreck, but he was like, it actually didn't take that long to come back together. And I'm like, I have been trying to tell you that like for so long, right? And so we got the house pulled back together. We made like a simple breakfast, and it was enjoyable. It was easy to get the serving dishes, to pull out just what we needed to cook the food and to have them over. And I just like kept thinking, I'm like, I am so grateful for this. I'm so grateful that we have done the work to simplify our house, because it functions so well now. It's easy to keep clean. It's peaceful. It's fun to have people over, even if it's kind of last minute. And I'm also so glad that I can model this to our kids too, that we don't have to have all of this stuff to be happy, to live a fulfilled life. In fact, it's so sad to me when this stuff that we thought would be so enjoyable to have, even having more toys and more yarn and more books to read, when that stuff becomes a burden. Isn't that such a bummer? When the things that are enjoyable and add to our lives, when they start to become a burden. And it's so hard sometimes, again, to know where that line is, but if we will be willing to pare down, to let that stuff go, I think you're gonna find so much freedom, and your house isn't gonna drive you bonkers anymore. And you're gonna like it no matter how big, small, old, new it is. You're really gonna find that you really love your house again. You really like being a mom again. You feel like a better wife. You feel like a better friend. You can make meals for the neighbor when they need it. It's just amazing to me how it impacts all the different areas of our life just by having our house simplified. And so, of course, like I always say, I really want that for you too. So I will link to a couple other favorites. Also, if you haven't done so, would you mind subscribing? We're getting close to another milestone number. It means nothing. Like, the subscriber count means absolutely nothing, except it's just kind of fun to see. So if you haven't done so, I would appreciate it. But otherwise, just you being here, watching and sharing it with your friends means so much to us as well. So I hate to even ask, actually. So, all right. Well, I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you again soon.